Welcome to the Landing Space Podcast. We are on episode 3, and today we're going to talk about fear and how to overcome fear and move in a direction where you are embracing it and not being crippled by fear.
Welcome to the Landing Space Podcast, talking all things entrepreneurship and strategies for building businesses. Here are your hosts, Mark and Justin.
Fear is where fun is. That's our title for this podcast. Basically, what we're going to talk about today is talking about fear, how it hinders us from being successful and progress in business. Especially doing the things that you don't want to do. The one thing to conquer fear is to do it first. So, depending on the business that you're in, talking to clients is a lot of fear there. When you're first starting out your business, you want to try to get your first client, and how do you go about talking to them is usually the biggest fear. And that's one thing that I don't want to do. That's just for me, but I try to do it first. Getting your hands wet with the thing that you're most scared of, I think, builds up your confidence. And when you start facing fear that way, I feel like that it doesn't control you anymore. You have a little bit more freedom once you face the one thing that you're the most afraid of in business or in life. I think that the fear is one of the things that kind of hinders us from progress. So
yeah, I agree with that. I think my biggest issue with fear is having to do something I don't want to do. So I'll just put it off and put it off and put it off. And I found that if I do it early enough in the beginning of the day, that I'm actually I'm better and I work harder throughout the day. Like I accomplish more throughout that day by dealing with that thing and not having to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, it's just a weight on your shoulder.
Oh yeah, 100% with that.
Getting comfortable to actually to be able to function, just getting it over with, like Justin was saying. Because if you don't go ahead and face that fear, it's just going to be that weight on your shoulder. You're not going to be able to move like you want to, because this fear is holding you back. Stepping out of your comfort zone, just being uncomfortable sometimes, and you facing that uncomfortable situation, facing your fear and just moving through it can keep your face going. Or keep your pace, not your face. Keep your pace going smoother, and the progress that you'll have is going to be more beneficial and productive.
I think having a goal, just having a goal in mind, or something that you're going to accomplish later on down the road, helps you move your business forward. And what happens is you lose track of that based off of situations that happen, crappy clients you get, people that are upset, bad review. I mean, Lord, a bad review on Google could ruin your entire day. And then you're worried about how you're going to respond to that and what's going to happen. And honestly, bad reviews and the fear of getting a bad review and all that, a lot of times the bad review is something tic-tacky. Like, you didn't do this right, you didn't call me back, something like that. It's never really anything that's going to influence your business. And for me personally, when I'm dealing with a bad review or I'm looking at a business, I usually read the bad reviews first. And I determine if that's actually something that matters. We went to an Airbnb in Charleston, South Carolina. My wife and I went down there for a trip. And the first thing I did in order to try to find where I was going to stay was look at the negative reviews. There was one place that was right on the main strip there that had 30 bad reviews, 40 bad reviews.
Right.
And it was all about the steps. And the fact that there were too many steps and they went too high up and all that. My wife and I are in pretty good shape, so I don't care. Right? Bad steps, whatever, move on. I'll climb some steps and take the bags, not a big deal. But that company had done something that was very smart. They dealt with the situation in a very wise way. In their heading on their listings for that hotel or in that place, they told the exact number of steps that went up the stairs. There's 210 steps to get to the first floor. There's 400 steps to get to the second floor. And so you address that problem early in that meeting, and then I read the review. I already knew about the steps before I even got to the review.
Right.
And so you dealt with the fear in that situation there early. they took care of it in the beginning review. And then when I got to it, I read all the negative reviews. I'm like, okay, whatever. I already knew this, right? I can move on. And that's key whenever you're dealing with fear, is to do it, address it, and move on. And it's the same thing with reviews. I mean, I found myself stressing about how I was going to respond to a review or something like that. And it was very easy for me to address that and do it as long as I did it early. I came up with a good game plan, and you move on. And moving on, I think, is key whenever you're dealing with fear, is moving on to that next situation and not being like that, you know, that rabbit in the headlights where you're like, oh crap, there it is, I can't deal with it, and just freezing and not doing anything. Because movement when dealing with fear, and quick movement when you deal with fear, is very, very good. And you know, one way, and I'm sure you found this within your business stuff, is moving, you know, being able to move and understand how to relate to fear and all that is learning and just being there and doing it with situations that pop up. And constantly learning throughout the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, you have to learn in order to progress. I mean, fear is a process of learning. Just like I'm sure everybody's heard this before, you got to make mistakes lead to success. Right? Same thing, fear leads to success because you learn from it. Just like you're talking the bad comments. People are scared to have these bad comments. But you got to think about it. A lot of people that are happy with services or happy with companies, they're not going to write a review.
No, they're never going to tell you.
Yeah, majority of the reviews that you see that are negative are people that are not happy. But the people that are happy with the service, I guarantee that there's far more people that are happy with the service than there are people that they're not happy. They're just, when you're angry, your emotions take control, and you write this review because your emotions are driving you to do that. When you're happy, there's nothing really driving you because you're happy with your service. But I think as you know, in the business aspect, in customers, I think for me, even if I'm happy with the service, I write a good review just to emphasize and actually, you know, settle the people that are looking for the same service, make them, you know, let them see, okay, there's some good in this.
Right.
So, I mean, embracing, you know, learning and one of the things that I like to learn is just to negative reviews, you're always going to have them. Learning to deal with it, learning to cope with it, but also listening to those reviews. What are, like you were saying, what can we do to fix this? What can we do that people won't have to mention this again?
Right. And dealing with it's the biggest issue. And dealing with it early is the key here. Like not just boiling it over and sitting there and doing anything with it. It's dealing with it early. I have an agent, and you know, honestly, it happens to all of us, right? So I have an agent, she's on social media, she's starting to work and get all social media up. She's using TikTok, doing some TikToks, and she's getting feedback from people that are like, this is stupid, I can't believe you do this, how dumb you look, all that sort of stuff. And so that little bit of negative stuff that she's getting is really starting to hinder her ability to do that stuff.
Right.
And she isn't seeing any sort of benefit to it right now, right? There's no clients coming in, there's nothing going on. She's just doing it because it's fun. It gets her out there. She's getting a good deal amount of views, and sooner or later it is going to turn into a way for her to make business. But now it's starting to hinder what she's doing. And I told her, I said, do it. It doesn't matter what people say. You're going to always have some critic out there that wants to give your opinion or say something or do something, but just keep doing it. Keep pushing through that fear. Keep on doing it, because if they leave a negative review and they say something, unless it's something that's, you know, that you've done or something like that, that's a big deal, just keep moving, because you're probably not going to do anything that's really going to affect anybody.
Right.
And so, you know, do something, you're having fun with it, keep doing it, keep shooting, keep doing your thing. Because ultimately, that little push through, that little movement past that fear, past that stop, is going to help build her business. And it might not be, you know, she might not turn into this TikTok sensation or anything like that, but ultimately it's going to make her better on camera, which is going to have her talking and doing stuff for listings and getting buyers and moving in that direction. And it's just a little learning path. You know, you just do a little bit here, a little bit there, and you work your way up to where you need to be. And you get really, really good at it. And that's one of those things. But you would never do that if you just ended and you got fearful of what people were going to say to you and just stopped working. And that's the biggest thing with fear, is just keep moving. Keep moving.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like when it comes to social media or anything interacting with, we're in the digital world now. So who cares? Whatever people think about you is about what you think of yourself. Right. How you feel, how you produce, or how you see yourself. If you see yourself a certain way, in a positive way, and you can actually project that out to your clients or to your audience. So if you're positive, you're confident, people will see that, and you don't have to worry about that, because when you have that mindset, you don't care what other people think, so you just move on. I think that goes back to the comments. It's just basically, you have to see positivity in yourself to get over fear.
Right.
And have that confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
Because that I feel like that would basically have you push you through all the fears that you might, come in contact with. I feel that when it comes to real estate, I tried real estate. You and I tried to do the wholesaling thing, and I'm not gonna lie to you, the first time that you asked me to go and talk to some of the people in one of the locations, I guess, calling them up, and I was just on the phone, and I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous because I didn't know who this person was. We're trying to figure out, who owns this property, right? So, and I was nervous to talk to these people, and I kept having to tell myself, what am I nervous about? I'm not going to see them again. I'm trying to help them out by trying to see if they want us to help them with this property. So if anything, I'm trying to help them out with a service. So who cares if I come across this way or that way? It's about how I feel that I project myself and how I carry myself to be able to push through these obstacles.
Yeah. I think anytime you do anything new, anytime I do anything new that's even a little bit scary, I find myself getting into that situation where I'm like, do I really want to do this? Is this really worth what's going on? And you just got to keep moving on it. Like, the girls are into, I've got 2 little girls, 11 and 8, they're into scooter. So they both scooter, they've got scooters. Well, I bought a 1-wheel just to go around the neighborhood with them and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That thing does 16 miles an hour on a single wheel, and it's like a skateboard. I mean, I'm flying through the neighborhood on there. And the first time I got on it, I freaking went flying across the floor. And I'm like, do I really want to get back up and do this, right? This thing is going to kill me. Like, I'm almost 40 years old. To break a hip, who knows what's going to happen at that point, right? But I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, right? Because my girls want me to be able to go with them. And I really don't want to have to try to run at, 15, 60 miles an hour with them around the neighborhood. I can't do it anyway. So, it's one of those things. There's no way. But the 1-wheel, now that I've got like 5 miles into it and I've been on it the entire time, like, it's really enjoyable. But if I would have let that first experience overcome me, and if I would have not gotten back up and gotten on it, I wouldn't have done it, and I wouldn't have realized how cool the thing is, because the thing is really, really cool.
Right.
I mean, it's a skateboard that does 16 miles an hour, and you can freaking turn and do whatever with it. It's awesome. But the fear, if I would have let that fear overcome, and if I would have stopped doing what I was doing, there would have been no way that I would have enjoyed that. And that's basically life, right?
Right.
The majority of the stuff that you come across in the beginning is going to scare you. Starting a business is scary. The unknown is scary. But doing it, jumping into it, going headlong into it, and moving past those barriers will ultimately be more beneficial to you than anything else. Overcoming fear is the key to any sort of business and moving forward in business, really honestly.
Right. Yeah, I think the initial fear is the unknown, like you said. Just like skydiving. You jump out of a plane. You have I've done it 3 times. And the first time I did it, my initial fear was, is the chute going to open?
Yeah.
But once the chute opened, it was, you basically embrace the view, embrace the feeling. You have that fear out of the way because the chute's open.
Right.
Same thing in life. When you don't try it, it's like the chute hasn't opened yet. You're constantly still scared to try what you are truly passionate about to do in life and what you want to excel in. If you don't take that chance and actually take that risk to start something or follow your passion, just follow what you want to do, whether it be starting a business or jumping out of a plane. If you don't do it and you let fear stop you, then fear controls you. You have no control. You always want to have control of what you do in life. I mean, you don't want fear. I mean, I'm a pretty religious guy, so to me, I feel like my one motto is fear doesn't exist if you have true faith, and that's just what I tell myself. But fear ultimately doesn't have to exist. I know fear can exist, but when it comes to business, push through it. in order for you to have your success. My daughter, like you were talking about, she's doing Taekwondo now, and I'm super excited about it because it's something that I was good at. I was good at karate and something I did for a long time. And my daughter is doing it now, but she wants me to get involved. My fear now is like, man, I got a big gut. I can't do this. But I'm like, why am I scared? This is my daughter. She doesn't care. She's gonna push to excel in it, and I can't hinder that for being scared. I can't let her know that I'm scared to actually involve myself with that. So conquering your fear not only gives you confidence, but it projects to other people that you're willing to do it. They're not going to be scared to do it either.
Right.
You'll become an example to some of these upcoming children, or people to look up to, your people just around you. You can be a true example for them by facing your fear. You took me out scuba diving. What did I tell you? My worst thing, number one thing I'm scared of.
Sharks. You're scared to death of sharks.
Yeah. Well, technically, yes, sharks. We went scuba diving. I never actually went in the ocean because I threw his he says his Jimmy Carter, but I was vomiting.
It's a fin. He threw my fin. So he was wearing one of my fins. They were two amazing fins. They had nicknames, Jimmy Carter, for the right and the left. And he got on the boat. He got a little sick. And he decided to use it like a frisbee and toss it out in the ocean. And we never found it again. So I don't know what to tell you there.
We went scuba diving in the time of the year where we were on, I felt like, the deadliest catch boat. And I was trying to get back in the boat and I get hit in the face. And your fin went flying.
No. That's not what they said. They said it was like a frisbee when it went flying across the ocean. They just tossed it.
Well, anyway, point is, I was willing to do that because that was in life, my number one thing that I'm scared of drowning.
Right.
Scared of drowning, and I definitely want to drown and be eaten up with sharks after I die, or vice versa. So I figured, all right, let me try it. We went to, Justin got me certified. Went to this wreck pool in Smithfield, I think, and gosh, I freaked out the first time. Treading water was biggest thing for me starting out, and that was once I did the treading water for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
that was my initial when I completed that, because that was I'm not a very good swimmer, and I can't tread water for life. But once I completed it treading water, for me that was actually the point where I was like, okay, I could probably do this.
Right. It's the learning experience, right? So it goes back to that. So little small things that cause you to learn and do it make it easier to address the fear issue.
Right.
And your major fear in that was drowning.
Right.
But once you realize the small step of realizing like, hey, I can tread water for 5 minutes without anything on. Then you put the BCD on and you inflate it and it's like a life vest. And at that point you're like, oh, I'm real comfortable in this water now.
Right.
And you get more comfortable. But it's taking those little steps to address that fear. And to deal with that fear on a regular basis really helps to overcome it. And scuba diving is a prime example of something like that. You do little things when you're training to do it that get you very comfortable being in the water and going underwater and diving. And they've set up perfectly through the step process of getting you where you need to be.
Yeah, and treading water it's something so small, but that was the key for me to make it be okay to go into water, especially in the ocean. I would never ever, before I met this dude, I would never have jumped in the ocean by myself in the middle of the freaking water where I can't even see what's under me. Because just like life, there's a lot of unknowns down there, right? But you just got to take the chance to jump in and trust that everything will work out. So
yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, anytime you're dealing with fears, just deal with it. Move on,
right,
and do it early and often. And really, that's what helps to overcome all those aspects with it. Is as long as you address it early and you get it out of the way, you're done with it, and you can move on. And I think that's your biggest issue. Is once you sit there and you think about it and you don't do it, and you put it off and you put it off and you put it off. At that point, you might as well just give up on it.
Right.
Because you're never going to do anything to overcome it. You've already established that what you're doing is going to control your life.
Right.
And once that little thing starts to control your life, where's the next thing? What's the next thing that you give up on and you don't do? And ultimately, those small things that you do to give up on as you work your way up with these smallest thing. I had to call somebody back, and it sounded like they were going to be pissed at me on the phone. So I chose not to call that person back because the voicemail they left, they sounded angry. And so you put off that phone call and you don't call them. And that's that little thing that you don't do and you don't hear back from them. Then you get that negative review on your thing and you don't address it and you put it off because you're like, somebody said they had a negative review, and then it just snowballs.
Right.
And the snowball aspect is what you need to avoid as a business owner in general. But I think you avoid that by conquering those little stuff, making that phone call, addressing that review, doing the little stuff to make you comfortable to deal with the big stuff.
You got to be consistent in facing every little fear that you have. You can't just face one big fear and not face the little ones. Because when you face that one big fear, and years later, you have little ones throughout the years and you don't face those, you're going to be back to square one. You're going to forget that feeling of what it feels like when you conquer that. When you face your biggest fear, it'll give you some confidence, but the little ones matter as well. So you be consistent with facing and never let it take control of your life.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think the biggest thing is just conquering the fear and doing it early and often.
Right.
And I think as long as you do that, you'll be good with that. So stay tuned to our next episode here in the Landing Space Podcast. We should have our next episode dropping every Tuesday. So stay tuned for that next episode, and that's coming out shortly.
Cool.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Landing Space Podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes.